Hi, Amy. Thank you so much for being here on the show. I am so excited to have you and to chat with you. So, can you first tell us about yourself? Tell us about your blog and your audience and all the things that you do.
Yeah. I'm really, really excited to be on here. I um I have a lot to talk about and I will try not to talk your ear off, but I'm so excited to be here to just inspire other women to just grow as a blogger and take their vague random ideas and turn them into something that you can actually make money at. And yeah, so I'm a Christian lifestyle blogger and I have a unique style of making digital products. I draw everything with illustrations. And what I do is teach women biblical literacy and spiritual growth. And when I first started out, I really couldn't tell you what I did, but I knew what I did. And so that's kind of what I want to teach you guys is how to figure out exactly what your niche is, and especially if you're scatterbrained like me, because if you can't explain it to other people, they can't explain it to their friends and be little ambassadors for you.
Mm, that is so true. Okay, before we dive into that, can you just tell everybody where they can go find and follow you while they're listening?
Yeah, my website is super simple. I'm so glad I did this. It is amycenter.com, and that's center with an S. So Center. And yes, I've had to do that ever since I was married, but that's better than my maiden name, which was Roach, because I was a Roach on my gym uniform my entire life. Side note.
Amazing. Okay, let's dive in. So, I want to know, what made you choose the niche that you went into, but then also, why do you think it was kind of hard for you to figure out this is what I do? And why do you think you were kind of like, oh, maybe I do too many things? Or, what were kind of some of those pain points at the beginning?
Yeah, so basically I was a an education major with an art minor, and I taught second grade, and I loved the artistic visual part of teaching. And I actually went into college to be an art teacher. And when I got there, they were like, "Oh, you're not very good." So I was really
It's
discouraged
horrible.
and basically failed figure drawing class and all that stuff. And just, I loved art. I had such a passion for this. And so I pivoted into elementary and was thinking, well, I'll just use my art there. These little kids won't say I'm bad at art. So I just pivoted there, and I ended up having all these kids with dyslexia and ADHD and all these really unique struggles. I had kids that had Asperger's and all those different things. And so I had to get really creative. And a lot of those kids got sent to me because they saw my teaching style was totally different. Every time we learned vocab, I was drawing pictures on the board and things like that. So that's the way I learned. And I was seeing so many of these kids were resonating with that. And so basically, it kind of killed that artist in me, that experience in
Mm.
college, but I love the teaching aspect of it, and using it with that. So then when I stayed home with my kids, when I was a stay-at-home mom, um, I'm thinking, okay, I want to stay home with them when they go back to school. I'm going to need to go back to teaching. And as you know, teaching in public school looks very different than it did 12 years ago. Um, when I was a teacher. And so I honestly was just like, I don't want to go back to it. It's too hard. It's too political.
Mhm.
It's too much. And I highly applaud every teacher that is out there. I love my kids' teachers. I think it's such an amazing thing that these teachers are doing. But I did not want to go back to it. I was dreading it. And I was just like, I love staying home. I love being creative. I love doing my own things. And so basically, I was like a serial entrepreneur the whole time I stayed home and was like, how can I make money at something? So I did the Etsy and I sewed and I wrote stuff. I was trying to figure out how to write children's books. And I was just basically doing any little thing I could do. And none of it was, it was just breaking even type stuff. So none of it was really
Yeah.
taking off. Um, and I was still doing art stuff, but I wasn't promoting it at all because I didn't feel confident in it because of all those, things in college. And so I ended up getting I had like I was in the beginning of, trying out the blogging world when that was brand new and was like, "Hey, it's me and I'm going to be here writing about, I don't know, join me on this journey," like everybody else was when we got the blogs going. And so I had dabbled in that a minute and took a break from that. So fast forward a few years into this, I got super, super sick. And long story short, I was ended up being diagnosed with Lyme disease. And I live in Texas, and it's a super controversial disease out here, which I didn't realize that was a thing. I'm just trying to figure out how to get better. And doctors are telling me, this disease doesn't exist in Texas and it's really underlying so and so. And then it became the crunchy doctor versus the modern doctor and politics and all this. Like, I didn't know what was going on. So I'm like trying to figure out how to get better to the point that I'm in a wheelchair and I'm taking 80 pills a day and I'm having seizures and tremors and like I feel like I'm dying and nobody's helping me. And everybody's telling me the last doctor you went to was a total idiot and I know everything. And so it was just like I'd never been so mentally beat down as I was in that time. And
Mhm.
in that time, at the same time, it went on and on and on for years. It was about 4 years until I figured out what was going on and how to treat it. And even then, they were like, "Good news is you have Lyme disease. We figured it out. Bad news is it's really hard to treat, and the treatment's usually worse than your symptoms." And so it was just like
Mhm.
every step I took to try to get back to my little happy stay-at-home mom life, it was like, I can't. I'm like, I cannot move forward. I can't figure it out. And so basically, the reason I bring this up is because I found myself in a position where I'd never been before, where I'm over here going, I'm not a happy-go-lucky person right now. I'm not being optimistic. I'm just everybody thinks they've got the answer, including family members and all friends and all these people who want to help. And I just am like, everybody shut up, go away. You don't understand this.
Yeah.
And to the point where it was like, I don't have a medicine or a doctor or a person that can fix this. And what if I'm like this forever? And so I just got this really dark place. Um, and so in that, I realized, like why am I even here? What's going on? Like, what is the point of all this? And I'm having nannies for my kids and things like that. And so what I realized was like I was so focused on my physical growth or physical healing. I wasn't acknowledging my mental healing at all. And so I grew up in the church. I'm a Christian, and I had had faith my whole life, but I never really had anything really hard happen. And so when this happened, the mental part of it was making me question my faith and question all this like, is this just like I've got to, what do I do here? And so I realized I just hit rock bottom physically and mentally. And I basically had to come to a point where it was like, if this is how I'm going to be the rest of my life, do is this how I'm going to live it? Am I just going to lay in bed and cry all day? Because that was where it had gotten to. And I had to make the choice. No, I'm going to I'm going to start a gratitude journal. I'm going to start reading books. I'm going to start do anything I can learn about how to get out of this funk. And so a lot of what I was
Mhm.
reading was like um, just people who dealt with hardship, Christian, non-Christian. Option B was a book that I read during that time, and it was by Sandy Sandberg. And she had said, I believe it was so long ago, but I think she had said her husband had died unexpectedly. And she was like, I had this whole path for my life. And all of a sudden, that path was gone. And so it was like I kept trying to get back on the path and trying to get back on the path. And I felt the same with my disease. It was like, I'm just like, can I sleep this so I can get back until I can get back on that path? And I had to
Yeah.
realize, I think that path is gone. And she had to
Mm.
make path B. She had to do option B. So I was like, what would path B? What would option B look like? And so I feel like I'd put my life and my dreams and my goals and all these things aside. And I was so like wrapped up in what other people thought. Like I couldn't do art because I wasn't good enough. And I couldn't go to work anymore because I wasn't healthy enough. And I couldn't be a mom because I had to get a nanny. Like every part of my identity was like, this was not the plan at all.
Right.
And so in hitting rock bottom, I learned, well, a lot of what my identity is what I believe about in my faith. So I had to figure that out. And that was deeply personal to my journey. And in that, I learned all these people that are getting through these hard things are um, setting goals for themselves. I had no goals set for myself. And it could be, I'm going to get up and take a shower today, or I'm going to, anything, brush my teeth. It could be anything. And so I started seeing light at the end of the tunnel, even if my circumstance hadn't changed. And so I went back, like, what do I want to do? If my husband's like, don't worry about a job. You don't need a job. You just need to get better. And so it was like, when I took the expectation of everybody out of it and I just did what I wanted to do, I decided I'm going to start blogging. I'm going to talk about what I'm going through and try to encourage people. I love encouraging people. And then when I was like, I'm reading my Bible and I'm learning things I'd never learned before and I'm sharing those. And then would be like, I love art. This is what I do. This is what I'm working on. And it's just like my blog just became an outlet of, and I didn't know what it was. I didn't give it a name. It was amycenter.com. Because I
Hmm.
was like, I don't know what this is. I'm not planning
Hmm.
on making money with it, but let's just try it. And
Yeah.
so basically, my business was birthed out of hardship. I built this business from my bed. And I am so thankful that that's not where I am now.
Hmm.
But that's what it was birthed out of. And so, what I kind of want to transition into is, so how did I figure out that it was a business, and how did I figure out my niche? Because as I was exploring all that, it was like, hey, let's talk about motherhood. Let's talk about Christianity. Let's talk about art class. Let's talk about this is what
Yeah.
I'm decorating for Valentine's Day. Like all of it was there. All
Everything.
of it. Yeah. I just made this recipe. And so um
Hmm.
at the time I didn't even know you could make money blogging. So the more I looked into like, how do I make this blog cool? I'm looking at, oh wait, that person made money. Like what is that? How do you do that? And so it turned into me just having this passion and joy for life that I didn't have. I felt like I had a purpose. Um and so it was basically birthed out of a hobby that was because I needed, you know, self-care. I needed mental
Hmm.
health help. So I don't know what we're
Oh my
talking about.
goodness. No, that's amazing. I asked you thank you so much for sharing all of that. I've known, a lot of your story, and just being able to share that with everyone I'm just captivated just listening to you tell all of this. And just, for anybody not watching the video, because you guys can watch this video on YouTube now, she is not in a wheelchair. She was up running around, going and grabbing water
Yes,
a second ago. Like,
absolutely.
she is in such a good place now,
Yes,
which I am
yes.
just so, so glad um, that
Girl.
we're not there anymore. Holy moly. So
Yes.
talk to me about, even like the last, let's say, couple of years, because I've been working with you now for like 2.5, 3 years, I think. You
Yeah.
started in PBS and then moved over into Shift. And so I have been able to just see this evolution and see this turn into such an amazing, incredible business for you. So even looking, like at the last like 3 years, what were some things, picking and like solidifying that niche to, figuring out, ooh, here's how I'm going to make this an actual business for myself.
Yeah. Actually, a lot of it came from other people's feedback. And
Mm.
I kind of would, it's kind of like when you're like, should I wear this shirt or should I wear this shirt? And somebody's like, that one. And you're like, oh, I didn't want that one. I'm going to wear this one. It's like, you're not
Yes.
really sure. But
Yes.
you know, when someone else tells you, you're like, now I know. And if somebody picks a shirt that you wanted, you're like, yes, I knew it. But it's like you don't even really know it until it's so clear. And that's what kind of what I did, because when I started writing, I started with, this is my Lyme story. This is Lyme disease. This is what I'm going through.
Mhm.
And then I had people filling up my inbox. I have Lyme disease. My son had Lyme disease. My sister had Lyme disease. What did you do? We're terrified. Who's your doctor? What's the name? Blah, 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 blah. And I was like, my heart is breaking for you right now, because I want so badly to say XYZ, here's this. And I did
Yeah.
not have it. And I realized everybody's coming to me as a Lyme expert. And I was not an expert at all in Lyme disease. And I
Yeah.
didn't want to talk about it, honestly. Like when people would contact us about so and so has it, I'd be like, I'm not calling them back. I don't want to talk about it. I can't even fill up my pills without getting upset. Like,
Mm.
I don't want to talk about this. And
Mhm.
so my husband would tell people, this is who we're using. And it was just like, this is not, I wanted this to be an outlet for venting about Lyme, not a help line for Lyme.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, I need to pivot then. If I don't want people asking me and talking about Lyme, I need to stop talking about Lyme. And so that was kind of like oh, I didn't even realize I was like, of course they're going to want to talk to me about something I'm already talking about. So it was like, okay, what part of this is a personal, you need to just get this out in a journal, and what is, this needs to be a blog post? And I had to decide that. And then I had,
Mm. That right there, hold on, like, that right
yeah,
there is such a huge thing that I want to, like, call out, because so often I think a lot of these, lifestyle blogs is born out of like, "Oh, well, I like this, and I like this, and I wanna talk about this, and I wanna talk about this." And it can be very stifling, I think, to people to be like, whenever they hear me talk about, "No, you should niche down, you're gonna be able to grow easier." And I think, it's looking at it like, I'm not telling you that you can never talk about this or you can never like what you were just saying, like, I needed to journal about that, or I needed to find another way to like let out that frustration. Or if somebody else is like, they need another way to let out that creative outlet. It's not that by you saying, no, I am not going to make my brand about this, is not you saying, no, this is not a part of my life.
mm-hmm.
But when we're being strategic with our business, you made a very strategic decision on, this is what I am going to build my pillars out of, because I know this is what's going to help me grow. And this is what I want to
Yes.
build the business foundation on. So I just want to like call that out, because I feel like a lot of people, like, niching down can be very challenging because you feel
Yes,
like
and
you're
I
giving
think we
something up.
all have something hard, and not that I don't talk about Lyme. If you get my hey, meet me, about me page, like my email, my welcome sequence, it's like my second or third email is my Lyme story. So it's not that I don't talk about it, but I have
Mhm.
changed the way I talk about it, because I'll fill in a couple blanks in a minute. But fast forward, I'm a Christian lifestyle blogger. So everything I write about points to encouraging people to seek out Jesus. And so my Lyme story is now like a testimony of how I learned the importance of spiritual growth, and what I do about that, and how I can help you with that, and how I can help you understand your Bible. And so my Lyme story pivoted into, not let me help you with your Lyme, it's let me point you to Jesus. And so that was my niche. And so I also, to kind of get out of the I'm not the Lyme expert, I ended up, when I decided like I don't want to be like, what Lyme? What are you talking about? You don't want to just totally drop it
Right.
like that, because people have
Sure.
anxiety, and they have depression, or they have bipolar, or they have whatever, and you want to relate to people. That's how people, are drawn to you, because they're like, I totally relate to that. So you don't want to lose that
Right.
factor, because a lot of us are here to encourage and help people, and that's, part of it is our story. So what I ended up doing
Mhm.
was made a blog post that kind of detailed,
Mm.
this is what I went through,
Yeah.
and this is how I can help you. And it's not medicine or doctors, it's encouragement, community. I'd love to be in your inbox, to just help you through your hardship, by pointing you to Jesus. So but if I've got those people that are talking about Lyme and stuff, it's like, here's a blog post for that. I hope it helps you.
Mhm.
Instead of, and then I've never really written about it again. So
Mhm.
it's like I've put it in that compartment. It has its place, but it's very strategic now. And then the other things I did was to figure out my niche was basically my audience resonated with one little thing I did on a Bible study one time. I was like, "Oh, I've been reading the Bible ever since I was a kid and didn't understand how all these stories stuck together. Like, what does Jonah have to do with Jesus? What does Exodus have to do with Nehemiah? Like, I feel like I'm reading a bunch of fairy tales and I'm supposed to know these are real things that happened. Um, so how do I, you know, marry that? How do I feel like this is as real as George Washington, basically? And
Mhm.
that, what was going on in history was actually going on the time of this Bible thing or whatever, the Roman Empire
Mm.
and all those things. So for me, I was like, if I want to connect to this, I need to make it real. So I need to figure it out. So, um, in short, basically, this blog post was I figured out the Bible isn't put together in chronological order. Like it's by genre. So we've got like
Yep.
history books, we've got poetry books, we've got prophecy books, and all this stuff is happening all at the same time, but they've pieced it out by genre rather than this is a chronological story. Here's the
Mm.
chronological order if you want to figure out the story. And I had like a cheat sheet. Old Testament, here's the way you read the books of the Bible in order chronologically. And New Testament. And I did that. And I was like, I just have been doing all this research and I just made this little page if you'd like it. And I was like 20 views a day, like so excited. And when I got this little thing, and I love Pinterest, so I thought, oh, I'll just put on Pinterest. And then it
Yeah.
was like 2,000 views a month instead of 20 views a month. And yeah, it wasn't a day, it was a month. It was like 20 views a month to 2,000 views a month. I was like, what is happening? And everybody was like, can I
Mhm.
get that sheet? Can I get that sheet? Can I get that sheet? And I was like, okay, like, cool. And so it wasn't like I was like, I'm here to teach you the Bible. It was, I'm talking about
Yeah.
Lyme. I'm talking about Valentine's Day. I'm talking about art. I'm talking about Bible. And everybody was just like, but what about that Bible thing? But what about the Bible thing? And so that's where I also was like, okay, when people were all about Lyme, 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 I was like, oh, no, 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 pivot, but
Mhm.
I don't know where. And then everybody was like, Bible, Bible, Bible. And of course, I was like, there's a stigma with any religious or Christianity or spiritual stuff. So I was like, for a long time, I was like, well, I'm not going to be a Christian blogger. Like, ugh, because it was almost like
Yeah.
I I don't know, I fought it. I really did fight it because I wanted people to understand I'm not the person up here um like hardcore, this is my political view and this is the pressing issue and this is, I was like,
Yeah.
my vibe is fun, laid back. I mean, we're gonna be artsy, we're gonna learn things, and you don't even have to put your makeup on or pants on for that reason. It was like I it was so hard for me to figure out where I fit in. And so when I started seeing
Mm.
people were resonating with that and they were like, have you done more? Like, what if you did Genesis? Like, figure out Genesis for me. And I'm like, I don't know, that's a lot of work. And then, but I was like, and like, what if I'm wrong? Like, what if I write something and
Mm.
it's not really true? And so it was like all this stuff, but everybody just kept pushing that. And I actually had a consult call with another blogger and years ago, and it was like an hour, and I was like, I'm trying to niche down. Everybody wants this Bible stuff. I don't know that I want to be like that seems like a lot of pressure, but it's such a
Mm.
huge part of my life. I know I don't want to do Lyme, but I've been doing this decor stuff. That's kind of fun. But I'm not like as good as the other. Like I was just like, look at my stuff. What do you think? And she was like, you're an artist. That's what everybody loves is your art stuff, your art style. Just make this into teaching everybody how to do art stuff. And it was like the shirt all over again. It was like, I like art,
Mm.
but I feel like in that search of where is the meaning of what I'm doing with my life was like a giant sign was like, you should be a Christian blogger. And it was like, ugh. But it was like, but you're passionate about it. I was so passionate about it because that's where I
Yeah,
encourage people. It's not in, you can be a better artist or you can be a better
right.
decorator. I'm like, I see you in your crap and I've been there and you can get through it. You're not alone. And that was my passion. And so when she said, teach people more art, I was like, yeah, that would be fun, but I don't feel like there's any passion behind that. Um,
Mm.
and so that
So it was
really, really helped
almost, it
me.
was, yeah, it was helpful because it's like, nope, that's not, it
Yeah.
helped solidify what you did feel passionate about.
Yeah. When we got off that call, I had an entire plan she came up with me for a whole, here's how to use watercolor, here's how to use acrylic, here's how to use oil pastel, and this is the programs you're going to do, and this is how you're going to sell it, and you're going to, and on the call, I was like, uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh. And I like got off and was like,
Nope.
I don't want to do any of that. What do I do now? I can't call her back and be like, do I have to pay again? Can we start over? Because I have this other idea. Um, but I really, really think that just getting other people to look at your stuff, tell me what you see. I literally thought I had my brand so nailed down the other day, and I really do. I'm really succeeding at what's happening and I'm loving it. But I went in ChatGPT and said, tell me my content pillars, amycenter.com. And it was like, give me 12 content pillars from amycenter.com. And like 3 of them were like on point, and the other 3 were like, what? I don't write about, do I write about that? And then I'm like, oh, maybe I do focus on that. And then I did like, give me 12 content pillars of dailygrace.com or other, Christian websites out there. And I was like, yeah, that is on
Mm.
point. Exactly what they write about. And so I am not changing my niche, but I'm constantly pinpointing it because I learned I had so many people that were like, I'm loving what you're doing with the Amy Center intentional living vibe. Like, what is it? Like, they would try to tell me a compliment of, I like your
Mhm.
stuff, but what is it? Like, what is it? And so it's like,
Mhm.
if they can't explain it to say they like it to me, then they aren't going to be able to explain it to other people to be like, this is why you should follow this girl or whatever, because
Mm.
that's free advertisement. And that's the best kind of advertising you're going to get is people
Yes.
who love your brands. And so, um, it's constant reevaluating how to clarify my message for people. And the more I do it, the more I'm like, this is the best job in the world. I love it so
Oh, it
much.
makes me so happy. And one of the things that I wanted to bring up that you do so well is really listening to your audience, because I know that's how you ended up getting where you've gotten. Is like listening to what they need and really like looking at like how can I serve them? And I think your audience has helped you so much with
Yes.
refining what your niche is. And I know that you do that so well, and you send out surveys every single year, and you're constantly getting information from your audience, constantly learning what they need, learning, where they are in their stage of life, and figuring out how to serve them and how it all makes sense with your niche. And I think that is something that so many people can take away from this conversation, is leaning in on what's really resonating with your audience. It's becoming more of like, what does my audience need, rather than let me just run off on all these tangents because they're fun,
Yeah,
right? Like the
absolutely.
Valentine's post and the art stuff, and then the Lyme disease, and then decorating your house. You really were able to hone all of that in, because there were a certain piece of it that your
Hmm.
audience was like, yes, and I need more.
Yes. And honestly, my audience gave me the idea for how I make 90% of my income now. It was
Hmm.
that printable was really cool. What if you did every book of the Bible? Like they asked me to do Genesis and I was like, oh, it's like 50 chapters and it's really in depth, in detail. Now I didn't go, like I grew up Christian. I went to a Christian college, but I wasn't a Christian, I didn't go to seminary. I didn't become a preacher.
Mhm.
So it's like, I don't have authority to do this. And so I think a
Mm.
lot of us feel that too, no matter what your niche is like,
Yes.
I
I
can't do
agree. You
this.
said that earlier, and I was like, "Oh, I hope we can circle back to that," because
Yes.
you talked about like, "Oh, I wanna talk about this on the blog, but what if I get something wrong?"
Yep.
How did you kind of work through that mindset of, with feeling like I have to be right with what I'm doing, especially with what,
Yeah.
you have a very specific thing of like, "Oh, there is like actual facts behind this."
Yes.
Whereas other ones, if it's like a mom blogger or even a food blogger or home decor, like, well, this is how I do it. It may not be like
Uh-huh.
if you went to a, professional, they would do it differently. So how
Yeah.
did you kind of work through that?
And I have that's still ongoing, and that's something you kind of have to um especially in religion, you're going to have to kind of figure out what your stance is. Um one of my things for like niching down is once I figured out what my niche is going to be, um then I had to figure out you kind of need to figure out your tone. Like I said, I'm not like a very serious Christian blogger. I'm not like we're not like we're going to be laughing the whole time with whatever we're doing. We're going to be creative and
Mhm.
fun. We're also not going to get controversial. That doesn't mean that I don't have
Mhm.
opinions, but this is not the platform for it. Um, that's if you're looking for controversy, you're not coming here. I'm not teaching you all of my opinions. I'm teaching you like the historical context of the Bible, like a Bible 101 class. So I had to kind of pivot that too. So I would have so many people approach me like, do you have the Catholic books? Which version of the Bible are you using? Where did you get your information? I need to know your background thing. What's your denomination? What I have people ask me all that stuff all the time. And what I tell people is I will answer, I didn't grow up Catholic. I'm not Catholic. I'm just sticking to the 66 books. That's like kind of my only one where I'm like,
Mhm.
here's my exact answer. But if I don't define what my denomination is, I use all the translations. I have posts about different translations and how you can use them together and all these different things. But when I flat out will say, I don't answer those questions because what I'm teaching you is to find your answers for yourself. So that's basically my platform is I'm teaching people how to figure out the format of the Bible and the basic layout of how all the pieces fit together so that when they get these controversial topics or when they figure out like why is ESV bad but KJV is not and all these like random stupid topics that we can just fight to death about. And I'm like, you know, to me, the only thing I'm not budging on is the Jesus thing. So I'm not going to talk to you about denominations and all that other stuff. This,
Mhm.
I'm teaching you what the Bible says in a way that you can answer those questions because that's what I'm trying to do is empower people to figure those things out for themselves. So if somebody says this isn't biblical, they can say, but is it though? Or they can figure out how to figure that out themselves. So I'm not telling people this is the answer. I'm telling people this is how you find the answer. And so that's helped me out too because if I had started out being like this is exactly the answer, then
Mhm.
and if you don't agree with that, everybody's wrong. Like that is the premise that I want to also portray to other people is like you don't know everything there is to know. So don't
Mm.
act like that to other people
Right.
because it pushes so many people away. And just kind of training those people in like don't just listen to everybody that's saying I know what the answer is. Figure out the answer for yourself. So it's trying to empower people, encourage people and like if people will make comments in my Facebook group and stuff like that. And I will, I'm like, if you're going to start that, then you can leave the group. We're here to encourage and learn from each other. I'm not promising I know everything. Thank you for letting me know that this was probably incorrect, but we're not talking to each other like that. And then most of the time
Mhm.
people are like, "Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to. I love your stuff," or whatever. And so that's cool because it is like, I'm gonna throw mama bear down here for a minute. And it's like, you have full
Yep.
reign of what you want your brand to be, what you want your tone to be. I'm very much like, we're all going to play nice, or you can leave the table. Like, we're not going to be
Yep.
controversial where it's like, I want you to have convictions. I want you to have opinions, but you're not going to be a butthead about it. Okay. So, I mean, that's where I'm at. And I'll have people, you wrote Ruth was the ancestor and she's really the descendant on this thing, and you need to change this, and if I can't trust that, I can't trust anything. And it would just be like, I'm human. I never promised that everything in this is 100% truth. I want you to look at the Bible while you're looking at this, and I'm so glad that you found that. That's great.
Yeah.
But it's more of a, I'm not being like, "Oh my gosh, I'm sorry, I'm so embarrassed. Everybody blast an email. You all get your money back." Like, if I didn't, like, just, you set your own rules for it, what you're going to allow in and how you're going to respond to people. Um and dealing with that helps with imposter syndrome, because you're like, "No, if this is not what you want, then this is not for you. This is not your place." Um but, you're going to get a lot of people's opinions, and you've got to really figure out what are your rules for
Mhm.
um protecting yourself. I've got people that flood my inbox. If you were a real Christian, you'd give stuff away for free. I can't believe you charge for things like this. So it's like having
People are
to,
fun.
yeah. And I mean, I'm not here to bash Christians. I'm a Christian. I have lots of good Christian community in here. But I'm saying there's people that will complain no matter what you do. And you've got
Yes.
to, and when and it's a niche like mine, which is deeply personal, it's hard not to take that personal. But I've learned that if I want to grow and I want to um, enjoy my job, I've got to niche down into as far down as we're friendly, we're fun, we're supportive, we're encouraging, we listen. And so
It's
your
writing
topic,
down those core values.
yes. And that
Mhm.
comes from, surveying my audience, Facebook group, what kind of stuff are you interested in? What's your vibe? What do you do for fun? Learning about these people. Um, and then sometimes declining the people that are not going to be the people that you need in that space, because you're trying to attract more of um, niching down the brand of the community that you want. Because I mean, we're doing this because we're passionate about it, so you don't have to follow everybody's rules. You make your own rules.
Absolutely. There's a quote right there. I love it. So, we could keep talking about this forever, but I do want to kind of pull us to a little bit towards the end. I can't believe we've been talking for over half an hour already, but
Sorry, I'm a
I would love
big
to
talker.
know. No, you're good. This has been amazing. I'd love to know, what are you looking forward to in this year? What's working for you now, and what are you excited about for 2024 with your brand?
Yeah, okay, so this is my January was the 5-year anniversary of my business. I
Congratulations.
literally um finished the entire Bible 2 years ago. I outlined the entire Bible. And it's like 100 pages of these little cheat sheets. And that was where my business took off. So I had this big product I could sell. And I was exhausted when it was done. I was so excited it's done. I love it. I'm still talking about it nonstop. Um, it's still selling. And so I have just been, last year was like, what do I make next? Like, what's going to top this?
Mm.
And then it was, my business was growing and was like, well, do I need to pay taxes now? Or do I need to have a better looking website? And do I need to, all the business things? I want to grow. So I was like, I'm not there yet, but I'm making the plan for where I want to be. So last year, I literally took a break and I made nothing. I made no new products. And it was really, really hard because all I wanted to do was make new products. And I spent all last year working on business stuff.
Mhm.
So I got a new website. I figured out how to market my product. I, got all the legal stuff, LLC, all those things. And I, oh my goodness, this year hit 2024 and it was like I hated that I had to pause the creative stuff, which wasn't 100% pause, but I had to focus so hard
Yeah.
on I really want this to succeed. So I want to do this right. And so I focused business wise so much last year. And I'm like so excited because this year is like new product, new product, new product, new product, new product, which is what I love to do. So all I'm doing is designing and creating. And I've taken like all the stock photos off of every blog post, and I'm drawing every single photo. Um, it's just been so incredible just to be like, I was so intentional last year about setting up all these building blocks so that I could hit the ground running this year.
Mm.
And all those systems are in place. It was totally worth it. But it's hard to pause. But I am rocking and rolling and I'm loving it because I'm not figuring out my niche anymore. I'm just I'm enjoying the fruits of my labor.
How are you looking this year for, balancing? Because it's not that you are like, okay, I'm not doing any business work, right? There's
Yeah,
always
for sure.
still business CEO hat that has to be put on. And that can be a very difficult balance there of like CEO computer work versus like, I need to go and be creative and create the blog
Yep.
post, create the content. How are you planning to balance those this year?
Well, and I haven't even talked about this, and I've talked your ear off, but you'll have to squeeze this into the interview. But basically, when I figured out, it was like right after I had that call with that lady about you should be an art blogger. I was like, I need, in this interview, I need somebody to keep me focused. I need somebody to keep me on task. And I had been listening since I found out you could make money blogging. I had found your podcast. So for years, I've been listening to your podcast and I'm still listening to your podcast and learning. And I'm realizing, oh, this stuff works. And then you came out with PBS. And I think I was in PBS for like a month and you were like, I've got a new program. Are you interested in Shift? And I was like, yes.
I was going to say you weren't in it for very long, I don't feel like.
No, it was like 2, 3 months before you started Shift. And I was like, I want that. And what it was I was going to have to make an investment. And basically, I wasn't making much money and I was going to have to turn it over to you. And I was scared because I was like, I'm going to have
Absolutely.
to take this little hobby that's breaking even and I want to turn it into a business. And where do I put that money and where it's worth it? And honestly, I'd followed all these different people and yours, I'm not even joking, but your stuff is the only one that I was like, it's moving the needle. And so I'm signing up for this. And I was like, you weren't even selling me on it. I was over here like, but if I give you the money, it'll probably pay itself back and then I might make even more. And you're like, do you want to be in the group or not? And I'm over here like, ah, dude, it pays
It's
for
stressful.
itself. It pays for
Mm.
itself like times 4. Good grief. I went from starting with you to breaking even, and I was proud of breaking even, to
Absolutely.
I just passed my teaching salary. Like
It's amazing.
because because what you did for me was said, "This is what I see. I see 2 shirts. Which one do you want?" And then it was notice when they see you. It's your art. And it was like, I'm literally drawing stick figures on stuff. And people are like, your stuff is incredible because it's like, I just owned it. And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay. Because people are like, well, I can do this if you could do this. Because it was just like your opinion helped me so much. You were like, here's the roadmap. How do you want to make money? And I'm like, I don't know. People say I can make printables. How do you like, what do I charge? What do I do? How do I sell them? And And so honestly, there's lots of bloggers that make ads. I don't do ads. I barely touch affiliates. 90% of my paycheck is printables. And so
Hmm.
what you did was you are this specific niche for this specific problem you're solving for people. This is how you're gonna, this is your roadmap to make this into a business. And for me, I'm trying
Yeah.
to figure out, like, I guess I just talk about the Bible, but I promote other people's stuff to make affiliate. No, that's not what you do. And so it's like, it took all of the guesswork out. And I had somebody in my corner being like, I will show you how to get there if you take my advice and you stop, trying to do everything. And it has been, I mean, I'm coming on 3 years with you, and I'm still like, okay, I've hit one of my major goals, but I know there's more to go. And honestly, I don't really know what my next roadmap thing is. And so that's why I'm excited for, I know there's more, but what
Yeah.
is it, Brie? And I know you're going to tell me, and
Yeah.
I know we're going to have a plan, and I know we're going to get there. And it's just been the best. It's been a huge, huge encouragement and blessing to my business and my
Oh,
family. And it's been the best thing I did for my business.
you're amazing. I'm just so glad. Like, I have it written down, like, on my board that I want to help women quit their jobs or like make, that salary that they were making if they're not doing it anymore. And
Hmm.
hearing that you hit that is just so freaking amazing. I'm so proud of you. And I love, that you brought that up too, because I think, what I hope that people know, and I know I talk about it on the podcast and stuff too, is like, I'm not a coach, and we're not going to create programs that put people into a box of like, okay, cool, well,
No.
here's my exact method and you have to make money by doing X, Y, and Z. And I think a lot of people do that, and that just doesn't
Yep.
work.
It
And so,
doesn't.
I mean, inside Shift, we have people that are, making 90% of their income from affiliate links. And then we have people
Yes.
like you that are making 90% of your income from your digital products. We have girls that are doing brand deals more than anything.
Yep.
So there is that variety because everybody's business is different. We're all in this blogging world, but it all looks different for everyone. And I'm just so glad that you, through this entire podcast, like the theme has been like, you were able to figure out this is what works for me. And this is how I can keep going back to my audience and checking in with them and keep growing in that way.
Yes, absolutely. I
Oh
love
my
it.
gosh. Well, I can't wait to see what happens for you in 2024. So, you guys go follow her, Amy Center with an S. We'll link everything in the show notes below so you guys can go and find and follow her and get some of those printables if you want. And Amy,
Yeah, I've
just
got
thanks
an
so much for,
entire freebie library. It's like 50 plus.
yes,
I'm about to add more stuff in. So if you sign up, amycenter.com/subscribe, you get all those freebies sent to your inbox. And I hope you love
she
them.
gives away so many freebies, you guys. So many. It's amazing. So, yeah, go check it out for sure. Amy, thank you so much for taking the
Thank you,
time to be
Bree.
here. Appreciate it so much. All right, you guys, we'll see you back here next Tuesday for a Thrive in 5 episode. Bye, y'all.